CIET NCERT presents curriculum-based series Dhwani Shala. Friends, let's join in Dhwani Shala Class 8.
Hello my young friends. I am your friend Anjali. Dear children, you have seen several kinds of plants and animals. However, there are other living organisms around us also which we normally cannot see. These are called microorganisms or microbes. And today we are going to study about them only. That is Chapter 2 of NCERT Science textbook, that is Microorganisms. Have you ever wondered about the cause of disease? Is the climate responsible? Is the food responsible? Then what causes disease? What is the cause for simple disease like common cold and cough? Yes, it is because of the organisms that we cannot see. That is, they are microscopic. Children, these microorganisms are found everywhere around us. Let us do some activities to see their presence in our garden soil and in pond water. First activity is, for this, you must collect some moist soil from the garden or some field in a beaker and add water to it. After the soil particles have settled down, take a drop from the beaker and place it on the glass slide. In the next activity, take a few drops of water from a pond, spread on a glass slide and observe these two glass slides through a microscope. Do you find any tiny organisms moving around? Yes, you will see very small organisms in it. These observations show that water and soil are full of tiny organisms, though not all of them fall into the category of microbes. These microorganisms or microbes are so small in size that they cannot be seen with the unaided eye. Some of these, such as the fungus that grows on bread, can be seen with a magnifying glass also. Others cannot be seen without the help of a microscope. That is why these are called microorganisms or microbes or microscopic organisms. That is why children, for example, if we watch curd under a magnifying glass, shall we be able to see anything? No, because the organisms in it can only be seen with the help of a microscope. Microorganisms are classified into 4 major groups. These groups are bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and some algae. Examples of bacteria are spiral bacteria and rod-shaped bacteria. Some examples of fungi are Aspergillus, Penicillium, bread mold, which means rhizopus. Some examples of protozoa are amoeba, paramecium, and the examples of alga are Spirogyra and Chlamydomonas. Except for these 4 categories, there is one more major group which is called viruses. Viruses are also microscopic but are different from other microorganisms. They, however, reproduce only inside the cells of the host organism, which may be a bacterium, plant, or animal. Now we shall know where do microorganisms live. Microorganisms can live anywhere, in air, in water, in plants, or on inside the bodies of animals including us. They live in all types of environment, ranging from ice-cold climate to hot springs and deserts to marshy lands even. Microorganisms may be single-celled like bacteria, some alga and protozoa, or multicellular like having more than one cell, such as many alga and fungi. Some microorganisms grow on other organisms, while others exist freely like amoeba which live alone. Some microorganisms like fungi live in colonies. Now we will see the relationship between microorganisms and us. Microorganisms play an important role in our lives. Some of them are beneficial in many ways, whereas some other are harmful and cause disease. Now first let us see about friendly microbes. Microorganisms are used for various purposes. They are used in the preparation of curd, bread, cheese, pickles, cake and many other food items. Children, you have seen your cake fluffy and it rises when baked. Why it is so? Because the baking powder added in it releases CO2 gas, that is carbon dioxide. Similar work is also done by microorganisms. For this, you can perform this activity, which will show you an interesting result of the microorganisms activity. Take half kg flour or atta or maida, add some sugar and mix with warm water. Add a small amount of yeast powder and knead to make a soft dough. Now what will you observe after 2 hours? You will find the dough rising. Why it is so? It is because yeast reproduces rapidly and produces carbon dioxide during respiration. Bubble of the gas fill the dough and increases its volume. This is the base of the use of yeast in the baking industry for making breads, pastries and cakes. The second activity which you can try is take a 500 ml beaker filled up to 3/4 with water. Dissolve 2 to 3 teaspoons of sugar in it. Add half a spoon of yeast powder to the sugar solution. Keep it covered in a warm place for 4 to 5 hours. Now smell the solution. Can you get a smell? This is the smell which you will be getting of alcohol, as sugar has been converted into alcohol by yeast. This process of conversion of sugar into alcohol is known as fermentation. Louis Pasteur discovered fermentation in 1857. Microorganisms are used for the large-scale production of alcohol, wine, and acetic acid of vinegar. And for this, the microorganism used is yeast. For this purpose, yeast is grown on natural sugars present in grains like barley, wheat, rice, crushed fruit juices, etc. Some microorganisms are also used in cleaning up of the environment. This is the another friendly effect of microorganisms. For example, the organic waste like vegetable peels, remains of animals, feces, etc. are broken down into harmless and usable substances by bacteria, converting them into manure. Manure is used to provide nutrients to the soil, and these nutrients are then used by the plants. Have you observed the school gardener making manure? You can also make manure for the plants at your home or in the park. How? You can collect waste of plants, vegetables and fruits from nearby houses and gardens along with your friends or siblings. Put them in a pit meant for waste disposal. After some time, it decomposes and gets converted to manure. But you might wonder, how does this happen? To analyze this, you can perform this activity, children. Take 2 pots and fill each pot half with soil. Mark them as A and B. Put plant waste in pot A and things like polythene bags, empty glass bottles and broken plastic toys in pot B. Put the pots aside. Observe them after 3 or 4 weeks. Do you think you will find any difference in the content of 2 pots? Tell me, what will be the difference? Yes, you will find that plant waste in pot A has been decomposed. How did this happen? The plant waste has been converted into manure by the action of microbes present in soil. The nutrients released in the process, they are used by the plants again. You will notice that in pot B, the polythene bags, empty glass bottles and broken toy parts did not undergo any such change, because the microbes could not act on them and they cannot convert them into manure. You often see large amount of dead organic matter in the form of decaying plants and sometimes dead animals on the ground. You find that they disappear after some time. This is because the microorganisms decompose dead organic waste of plants and animals, converting them into simpler substances, which are then used by other plants and animals. Thus, microorganisms can be used to degrade the harmful and smelly substances and thereby clean up the environment. Isn't it interesting? Now we will discuss another useful aspect of microorganisms, that is increasing soil fertility. In agriculture, they are used to increase soil fertility by fixing nitrogen, Some bacteria are able to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere to enrich soil with nitrogen and increase its fertility. These microbes are commonly called biological nitrogen fixers. Whenever you fall ill, children, the doctor may give you some antibiotic tablets, capsules, or injections such as penicillin. The sources of these medicines is what? Yes, it is microorganisms. These medicines kill or stop the growth of the disease-causing microorganisms. Such medicines are called antibiotics. These days, a number of antibiotics are being produced from bacteria and fungi. The antibiotics are manufactured by growing specific microorganisms and are used to cure a variety of disease. Antibiotics are even mixed with the feed of livestock and poultry to check microbial infection in animals before given to humans. They are also used to control many plant disease. It is always important to remember that antibiotics should be taken only on the advice of a qualified doctor. Also, you must complete the course prescribed by the doctor. If you take antibiotics when they are not needed or in wrong doses, it may make the drug less effective when you might need it in future. Also, antibiotics taken unnecessarily may kill the beneficial bacteria in the body. So be careful while taking your antibiotics and always take the dose as prescribed by your doctor. Children, do you know about vaccination? Why children or infants are given vaccination? This we will discuss about now. Vaccination. When a disease-carrying microbe enters our body, the body produces antibodies to fight the invader microbe. The body also remembers how to fight the microbe if it enters again. So if dead or weakened microbes are introduced into a healthy body, the body fights and kills the invading bacteria by producing suitable antibodies. The antibodies remain in the body and we are protected from the disease-causing microbes forever. This is how a vaccine works. For example, several diseases including cholera, tuberculosis, smallpox and hepatitis can be prevented by vaccination. Do you know, children, Edward Jenner discovered the vaccine for smallpox in 1798. In your childhood, you must have given injections to protect yourself against several diseases. Can you prepare a list of these diseases? You may take help from your parents and elders. It is essential to protect all children against these diseases. A worldwide campaign against smallpox has finally led to its eradication from most parts of the world. These days, vaccines are made on a large scale from microorganisms to protect humans and other animals from several diseases. Now we will study the harmful effects of microorganisms. Microorganisms are beneficial to us as we discussed, but they are also harmful to us in many ways. We will discuss some of the microorganisms causing disease in human beings, plants and animals. For example, disease like dysentery and malaria, they are caused by protozoa, whereas typhoid and tuberculosis are bacterial disease. Some skin disease are caused by fungi. Common ailments like cold, influenza and most cough are caused by viruses. Children, COVID-19 pandemic, which has spread across the world nowadays, is also caused by a virus known as coronavirus. Serious disease like polio and chickenpox are also caused by viruses. But how microorganisms affect our bodies? It is because when harmful microorganisms enter into bodies, they produce harmful substances called toxins, which make us feel ill, or in the worst case scenario, they cause damage to tissues, organs, or disturb the whole body system. Such disease-causing microorganisms are called pathogens. Some examples of human disease caused by pathogens are cholera, rabies, mumps, malaria, etc. Some microorganisms even spoil food, clothing, and leather. Let us study more about their harmful activities in humans, animals, and plants as their victims one by one. Let us discuss first the disease-causing microorganisms in humans. Pathogens enter our body through the air we breathe, the water we drink, or the food we eat. They can also get transmitted by direct contact with an infected person or carried by an animal. Thus, microbial disease that can spread from an infected person to a healthy person either through air, water, food, or physical contact are called communicable disease. Examples of such disease include cholera, common cold, chickenpox, and tuberculosis. Let us now take the example of the common cold which is spread through air. When a person suffering from common cold sneezes, fine droplets of moisture carrying thousands of viruses are spread in the air. The virus may enter the body of a healthy person while breathing and causes to spread infection. So let me ask you a question. Then how do you prevent the spread of such communicable diseases? Yes, we should keep a handkerchief or the tissue paper which is disposed right after the use on the nose and mouth while sneezing, and also cover our mouth by wearing a mask if we have cold-like symptoms. It is always better to keep a distance from an infected person. This would help to minimize the risk of germ spreading. So now let us see some of the other diseases which are transmitted through air. Tuberculosis is also an infectious disease that usually affects the lungs. It generally spreads when an infected person sneezes, spit, laugh, talk, or coughs. It is caused by a bacteria, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. The other example of disease which spreads through air is measles. Measles is an endemic disease, that is, it is continually present in the community and many people develop resistance. It is caused by a virus named Rubella. Another example is chickenpox, which can be transmitted through air or close contact. It is also known as varicella. It is a highly contagious infection caused by virus Varicella zoster. Now, the next mode of transmission of disease which we will talk is water. As we know, our daily basic need is water, and it can spread numerous diseases if contaminated. Have you wondered why the teacher keeps telling us not to let water collect anywhere in the neighborhood? It is because all the mosquitoes breed in water. Hence, one should not let water collect anywhere in coolers, tires, flower pot, etc. By keeping the surroundings clean and dry, we can prevent mosquitoes from breeding. Try to make a list of measures which help to avoid the spread of malaria. Examples of waterborne disease are cholera and typhoid infection, whose causative microorganism is bacteria. One should maintain personal hygiene and good sanitary habits as a preventive measure for this. Avoid ice and raw food. Hepatitis A, which is caused by virus, is also water-transmitted disease. Consumption of properly cooked food, boiled drinking water, and on-time vaccination should be taken care of to prevent the spread of these diseases. Children, now we shall study about disease-causing microorganisms in animals. Several microorganisms not only cause disease in humans and plants, but also in other animals. For example, anthrax. It is a dangerous human and cattle disease which is caused by a bacterium. Foot and mouth disease of cattle is caused by a virus. Robert Koch discovered the bacterium which causes anthrax disease. Okay, can you tell why it is asked to keep our food covered? It is because there are some insects and animals which act as carrier of disease-causing microbes. Housefly is one such carrier. The flies sit on the garbage and animal excreta. Due to this, pathogens stick to their bodies. When these flies sit on uncovered food, they may transfer the pathogens. And whoever will eat this contaminated food is likely to get sick. So it is advisable to always cover the food items. Another example of a carrier is mosquito. The female Anopheles mosquito, which carries the parasite of malaria called as Plasmodium, and the female Aedes mosquito acts as carrier of dengue virus. So here you might ponder, how we can control the spread of malaria or dengue. Some general preventive measures could be taken, like using mosquito nets and repellents, spray insecticides and control breeding of mosquitoes by not allowing water to collect in your surrounding so that they could not get a place to breed. Now we will talk about disease-causing microorganisms in plants. Several microorganisms cause disease in plants like wheat, rice, potato, sugarcane, orange, apple and others. The disease reduces the yield of crops. Citrus canker is a disease which is caused in citrus plants by bacteria and its mode of transmission is air. Rust of wheat is another disease which is caused by fungi and it is caused in wheat, barley and other cereal crops. Its mode of transmission is either through air or seeds. Yellow vein mosaic of bhindi or okra is a virus-based disease and it is transmitted by insects. These all diseases in plants caused by microorganisms can be controlled by the use of certain chemicals which kill the microbes. Children, let me share one incident with you. My friend went to a party and ate a variety of foodstuff. On reaching home, she started vomiting and had to be taken to a hospital. The doctor said this condition could be due to food poisoning. You might wonder, how food can become a poison? Yes, this situation is called food poisoning and it is actually not a poison in food, but it is due to the consumption of food spoiled by some microorganisms. Microorganisms that grow on our food sometimes produce toxic substances. These make the food poisonous, causing serious illness and even death. Who adds these microbes to our food? Most often, it is actually when food is mishandled or left open, exposed to dirty surrounding. So it is very important that we preserve food to prevent it from being spoiled. So our next topic is based on this, that is how to preserve food, called food preservation. As we understood, microorganisms spoil our food. Spoiled food emits a bad smell and has a bad taste and it changes color. Now let us discuss the common methods of how to preserve food in our homes. Tell me, why do we put dried neem leaves with grains while storing them in the metal container? Yes, we do this to prevent grains from spoiling. Next question is, you might have seen that during the rainy season, bread gets spoiled and its surface gets covered with grey patches. What are these grey patches? Can you guess why it is? Yes, these grey patches are actually fungus and these occur when bread left is unused under moist conditions, so it is attacked by fungi. You can observe these patches through a magnifying glass. You will be able to see tiny black rounded structures. These structures are fungi. But where do these come from? They come from our surroundings and they attack the food item, especially when it is present in moist conditions. The food, which is in the direct contact of microorganisms through air or water, are more prone to be attacked by them and get spoiled. But chemical method salts and edible oils are the common chemicals which are generally used to check the growth of microorganisms. Therefore, they are called as preservatives. You know, we add salt or acid preservatives to pickles to prevent the attack of microbes. Sodium benzoate and sodium metabisulfite are common preservatives which are used in jams and squashes to check their spoilage. Preservation by common salt. It has been used to preserve meat and fish for ages. Meat and fish are covered with dry salt to check the growth of bacteria. Salting is also used to preserve amla, raw mangoes, tamarind, etc. We can also preserve the food item by sugar. Jams, jellies and squashes, they are preserved by sugar only. Why sugar? Because it reduces the moisture content which inhibits the growth of bacteria with spoiled food. Oil and vinegar can also prevent the spoilage of pickles because bacteria cannot live in such an environment. Vegetable, fruits, fish and meat are often preserved by this method only. Now, the next treatment is heat and cold treatment to preserve the food item, and it is specially used in milk. You must have observed your elder boiling milk before it is stored or used. It is because boiling kills many microorganisms. Similarly, we keep our food in the refrigerator. Low temperature also inhibits the growth of microbes. Have you wondered why does the milk that comes in packet not spoil for days? It is because that milk is pasteurized. So, what is pasteurization? Pasteurized milk can be consumed without boiling as it is free from harmful microbes. The milk is heated to about 700 degrees Celsius for 15 to 30 seconds and then suddenly chilled and stored. By doing so, it prevents the growth of microbes. This process was discovered by Louis Pasteur. One more technique is storage and packing to preserve the food item. These days, dry fruits and even vegetables are sold in sealed airtight packets to prevent the attack of microbes. Children, now we shall discuss the last topic for today, that is nitrogen fixation. Bacterium rhizobium. You might have heard this bacteria word in your class 6 chapter 1. It is involved in the fixation of nitrogen, and it is also found in the root nodules of leguminous plants such as beans and peas, with which it has a symbiotic relationship. Sometimes nitrogen gets fixed through the action of lightning, but you know that the amount of nitrogen in the atmosphere remains constant. You may wonder how. Let us understand this through the nitrogen cycle. Our atmosphere has 78% nitrogen gas. Nitrogen is one of the essential constituents of all living organisms as a part of proteins, chlorophyll, nucleic acid and vitamins. The atmospheric nitrogen cannot be taken directly by plants and animals and humans. Certain bacteria and blue-green algae present in the soil fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere, and then this nitrogen is converted into the compounds of nitrogen. Once nitrogen is converted into these usable compounds, it can be utilized by plants from the soil through their root system. Nitrogen is then used by plants for the synthesis of plant proteins and other compounds. The animal feeding on plants get these proteins and other nitrogen compounds in the similar way from the plants. The animals feeding on plants get these proteins and other nitrogen compounds from them. When plants and animals excrete or die, bacteria and fungi present in the soil convert the nitrogenous waste into nitrogenous compounds to be used by the plants again. Certain other bacteria convert some part of nitrogenous compounds to nitrogen gas, which then goes back into the atmosphere. Also, atmospheric nitrogen is also fixed by lightning. As a result, the percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere remains more or less constant, and hence the nitrogen cycle continues. Now comes the recapitulation time. We have learned microorganisms are too small and they are not visible to the unaided eye. They can live in all type of environment, and they are found in air, water, in the bodies of plants and animals. And there are 4 categories of microorganisms, which are bacteria, fungi, protozoa and some algae. And the another category is viruses. They are quite different from the other living organisms and are considered microbes. Some microorganisms decompose the organic waste and dead plants and animals into simpler substances and cleaning up of the environment. We also studied about antibiotics, which kill or stop the growth of disease-causing microorganisms. We have also studied how microorganisms grow on our food and causes food poisoning. And the last, we studied about the methods of food preservation and nitrogen fixation, that how nitrogen from the atmosphere is taken and it gets converted into nitrogenous compound, and then the certain bacteria convert compounds of nitrogen in the soil into nitrogen gas. With this, stay safe, Keep learning and keep exploring.
Friends, you are just listening to the series Dhwani Shala. Production assistant Meenakshi Kugreti. Recorded by Bati Langlingdo and Mayank Kumar. Produced by Vandana Arimardan. And this program is brought to you by CIET NCERT, New Delhi, India.